moving on to the next speaker, Carmen Vicelich. Carmen has successfully built 2 international data and technology businesses. While building such successful businesses, she balanced her life really well. She's a young mother of 4 children and a wife, and a very successful entrepreneur. Carmen's energy, drive, and ability to simplify some really complex matters have earned a really good recognitions globally, I understand. Today, Carmen will address the need for market immersion, cultural understanding, the importance of agile strategy to make a successful brand. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Carmen Vicelich.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having me, and apologies if I'm going to repeat anything that's been covered this morning. I have literally just flown in from Delhi from speaking at a technology conference there where there were 2,000 attendees, so definitely felt like taking little old New Zealand tech to the world. So I did start Valocity, and for those that don't know what Valocity is, every bank in the world has to validate the value of a property before they can lend you money on it, and Valocity helps lenders do that faster and better so they can say yes. And so there's a growing friction with increased complexity in lending, increased compliance that adds friction to the process. And at the same time as customers, we want a faster speed to yes, and we want it to be seamless and relevant experience. So we launched Valocity in New Zealand just over 4 years ago, and we're very excited to have the most banks, lenders, brokers, and consumers all using our platform here to help transform the valuation and lending process. We then went to Australia, as most technology and entrepreneurial businesses do, and it's been great. And we were in the process of understanding the US market, where our biggest competitor is a multi-billion-dollar business listed on the stock exchange. And we just got a yes that actually we should go and compete there. Their technology is 15 years old. We're cloud-based, modular, flexible. When we got a phone call from a global bank and a global valuation firm in India, and they said, do you want to do a Zoom? And we were like, a Zoom? We're on our way. India. And so we landed in India. I did a few podcasts, and a lot of people said it's very hard to get meetings in India. And so I said to my teammate Kerry, who was in the room, I'm like, book lots of meetings. And we talked to NZT, we talked to the different firms, and we were hustling to get lots of meetings. I didn't want to go all the way over there and waste my time. We were a bootstrapped organic growing business, so we weren't flying all the way over there to not have meetings. And I guess one of the first lessons was what was the case for others wasn't the case for us. It was like the Amazing Race. Everybody confirmed. We were trying to go across town and had booked too many meetings. And it was insane. And I guess it's been an amazing journey for us ever since. And so many times I say to my colleagues and Kerry's here in the room, we should have a camera with us just actually videoing our journey, because we're literally learning as we go. So I guess some of the lessons that we've learned is, no matter how good your tech or your data is, and it is quite surreal being a female blonde entrepreneur taking technology to India, and there's lots of lessons around that. But no matter how good you are, it really depends on people. Execution depends on people. And in New Zealand, we had shoulder tapped almost 90% of our team. Good people brought more good people. We've got 6 married couples. And in Australia, we shoulder tapped our leadership team, and we networked to find out who was good. And I guess one of the most important lessons for India was actually how you're going to do it there when you know nobody. And the lesson is you do the same. You network and you meet people and you find out who the key people are. Who do you need to know? And you hustle. And that's how we found our country manager in India. One of our partners here, a global brand, Equifax, I was meeting with one of them in India with their MD from the US, and he said, I have been flying to India for 13 years every 6 weeks to meet my team. And he said, every time I come, I learn something new. And that was a really important lesson for me. You will never know India from New Zealand, no matter how good you think you are. And I think there's so many Kiwi businesses that think we're just it's fine to pop over to the ditch. I do day trips all the time. But if you're going to dynamic markets like India, dynamic markets like China, and a few of the Indian people are laughing in the room, you're never going to figure it out zooming in there on your white horse. You need the local support. And it was amazing seeing the difference. We had some great meetings and we knew India was an opportunity. And once we'd hired our country manager, when we went to meetings, the conversation was different. They were like, oh, this is real. They've got people on the ground. This is actually, they're going to get it. And it's a very complex market. India is the size of Europe and it's just as complicated. It's got as many states and as many things to figure out, as many different cultural varieties as you travel across India. And so I think it's an exciting opportunity, but you can't be naive thinking you're going to just fly in there every now and again, because it's a very serious market. One of the also important lessons for us is actually how you work through culturally the different expectations. And I think this is also a lesson for New Zealand businesses that expand globally, because we're used to just everybody hustling and DIY and, you're growing really fast. But actually, when you start going global, you really need to have structure and clarity, because otherwise you end up with lots of duplication. So our India team was going, no, you can't do the marketing in New Zealand and the branding because you don't understand the India culture. And we were going, well, no, but actually our branding should be the same. Our messaging should be the same. And so you actually have to grow up from a young scaling business to more of a structured business with processes and functionality. So everybody knows who's doing what and there is clarity. And I guess otherwise, there's this natural expectation that you're going to duplicate everything into every country that you go to, but you just can't. That's not sustainable. So there has to be this balance of actually what is right for India is not going to be the same for New Zealand or for Australia, but actually at the same time, you can't really start a whole new business and redo everything. One of our big lessons was, I guess, the definition of MVP, even as a tech company. We're used to hustling and selling things and then building them as we go and showing things. And, clients very much our success has been solving problems for clients and being really agile with how we work. But in India, that's not the case, because in India, they want to see it, they want to touch it, and they've seen, they get tech all the time. So there were so many complexities we had to solve. And one of the first ones, if you think about it, is actually there is no addressing in India. So how do you even send a valuer out? And so we've had to very much look at the local solution and actually localize our product. And I think that's another important lesson, that you can't just think you're going to take what you've got from New Zealand and it's just going to fit nicely in a box in India. It's a very complex market and you do have to spend the time. And that's sometimes frustrating, especially as an entrepreneur that wants everything to happen fast. But actually by spending the time and having all the conversations again and again and again, you get it really right. And it was so exciting for us when we flew over there and had 20 meetings and every single bank said yes. We knew we had it. And that's when you know that you've actually, if you had rushed in and tried to do things too quickly without that validation, you wouldn't have succeeded. So there's been, I guess, a lot of lessons for us. And mostly I also get asked, why India? And, I suppose if you haven't figured it out, if you Google the top 10 fastest growing cities in the world, they're all in India. They have a housing for all by 2022. They have a government that is all about digital India and a regulator who is just promoting innovation in finance. And I think that there's so much we can actually learn from India for what they've accomplished. When you think about it, in New Zealand, we've only got over 4 million people, 1.4 million properties. In India, over 1 billion people have got an Aadhaar card that they implemented, that every single person has a unique identifier. So, how hard it could be, and 1 billion people in that vast country, and they managed to figure that out. So I guess we're really excited because also, I guess from a social entrepreneurship point of view, the opportunity in the ASEAN region and in India for us as a mortgage platform is that we can really help the unbanked. Because the bank looks at two things before they can lend you money. They look at your credit score and they look at the value of the property. And for many, many people in the ASEAN region and in India, they have no credit score. It's very much a cash society. So if we can create quality valuations, removing collusion, doing benchmarking, randomly allocating out to valuers and quality control for banks so they can be certain on the value of a property, the bank can say yes. So it's really taking them on an incredible journey of collateral risk management, which probably sounds quite dull to most of you, but actually is game changing because they have no visibility today of what the market's doing. They have no data. And so as a tech company, we're really building our moat, bringing those combination of those things to India. But we're also very passionate that we can help so many unbanked actually get their first mortgage and help the bank say yes. And that's what really excites us. And that's why we're in India and not in the US. And and not in Europe, even though the shopping might be more some of my favourite shops. And my husband's always quite happy when I go to India because it's always full, flat out, and I hardly have any time because we have such a full schedule. So there's been many lessons learned, and I've no doubt that there'll still be many more to come. But we've fallen in love with India, and we're very, very excited. It's the most exciting place to be. It's dynamic, and it's literally it's day one. So I guess we look forward to sharing more tips and things as the day goes on. But I'm happy to take questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Carmen. Now, our final speaker, Honorable Simon Bridges. Simon Bridges is the